Alright, so there's something crazy that was announced for MTG Arena format, and that is a completely new format. And they've been kind of experimenting this. The last two times they've done a historic no bans list where none of the cards were banned. So even like things like Channel, Demonic Tutor, things like that were legal. Of course, the second time they've ran this event, Demonic Tutor, Channel, Temple's Trickery were banned. It was a little bit too much for the format. And basically this new format, they're calling it Timeless, is going to be basically what they ran in the last historic no-ban list. So let's take a look. So why a new format and why now? We're creating this Timeless as a home for MTG Arena's most powerful cards. They've introduced Weasel Beldrain Enchanting Tales. They've also introduced Strixhaven Mystical Archive. These cards did not have a great place to be played outside of their limited format without overrunning an existing constructed format. So these extras that get released per some of the sets they've released recently now basically have a home, such as Sneak Attack, for instance. But in Historic, if you release a Sneak Attack, it would be everywhere. So here's an interesting one. Timeless will feature every card on MTG Arena, which includes the fetch lands coming with Concept Tarkir. I wonder, the way they're phrasing it, does that mean the fetch lands won't be legal in Historic? I think there is a very good likelihood of them being pre-banned in Historic, if they're phrasing it like this. And they're also saying that we believe now is the right time to add a new format. Having said this, right, that the fetch lands are coming with a Concept Tarkir. Now, I do believe that if the fetch lands were legal in Historic and they just unbanned the Blood Moon, Historic meta would be shaken up a little bit. I hope they kind of experiment with that and expect more from things like bonus sheets, the list and play boosters, and sets like Modern Horizon 3. So we already knew that Modern Horizon 3 was coming to Magic the Gathering Arena. So players also proved there is a demand for this format with engagement and support during the historic no-ban list, which is true because a lot of people expressed that, even on Reddit, things like that, like social media. They really like this format, and also like the video engagement was actually great as well. Oh, actually, it says here we have pre-banned the Concept Tarkir fetch lands from Historic. So that's actually kind of interesting. I feel like they could have also experimented a little bit, right? I mean, it's fair. They don't want to hurt the format. Currently, it is pretty balanced enough in Historic, other than the fact that there is like the fragment reality shenanigan going on with Blue Eye Scam. But so let's take a look at what exactly Timeless is. So it is a non-rotating constructed format with a 60 card deck, any cards you can collect on Magic the Gathering Arena, rebalanced and digital cards, and original tabletop printings. So it seems like the Alchemy cards are going to be legal in Timeless as well. I think that's fine because most of the digital cards weren't even powerful enough to be played in Historic. There's like only like about like 7 or 10 cards ever being played on Historic from Alchemy. And even then, like, now we have a more powerful version, for example, like Fragment Reality in Historic now gets replaced by Swords to Plowshare, things like that. This non-rotating format includes digital-only cards, upcoming Concept Tarkir release, and any future set releases. Timeless will use the rebalanced versions of all digital-only cards, but the original tabletop printings of all non-digital cards. Now, the implication of this wording is actually pretty relevant because it says, but the original tabletop printings of all non-digital cards. So, for example, if the printed version exists in a tabletop format, for example, all the ninjas that were buffed through Alchemy will be using the original printing, plus something like Symmetry Mage will be a 0-2 as well. And same goes for something like Minx Gamboo, right? 4-mana card, pretty good. To contain all these powerful cards, Timeless will be the first format on the Magic the Gathering Arena to have a restricted list. So this is restricted basically means that you can have a single copy of that card included in the deck and sideboard. And it looks like the initial restricted list for the Timeless includes only the following 3 cards. So Channel, Demonic Tutor, and Temple's Trickery are not going to be banned initially. It's going to be restricted instead. Now, I'm not sure if I really like the fact that Channel and Tibble's Trickery are not banned. So, because in Best of 1, you could just mulligan 5 or 6 times to get Channel like that onto your hand, and then draw into some cards and potentially try to win off of Channel. Now, the likelihood of that happening because there's only one card ever in the deck lowers that chance, but we'll have to see how that fares, actually. These cards have earned their place in the restricted list based on their performance in our historic no ban list. During the first historic no ban list event, the entire format was ran by decks with Channel and Tibble's Trickery. Same with Demonic Tutor. And the Timeless will be a competitive format, so we're launching it with ranked best of 1 and traditional best of 3 ranked queues and an unranked play queue. That's actually great, because it's kind of hard to evaluate whether or not this is actually a great format without you facing decks that are also trying to win, right? Because what often happened in the historic no ban list event was that a lot of people are still playing some standard decks because it was technically an all access format. So they brought some standard legal decks that weren't playable. So it was kind of hard to evaluate whether or not your deck was actually good. So how will the restricted list work on MTG Arena? Cards on the restricted list will be limited to only one single copy. So here's an interesting part. When a card is added to the restricted list and is no longer legal in any other format, players will receive wildcards for each copy of the card in their collection greater than 1. For example, if a player owns 4 copies of that card that is added to the restricted list, the players will receive 3 wildcards for that change. Okay, that makes sense because now you can only use 1 card and 3 of the other cards are banned. There will not be a wildcard reimbursement for the 3 card restrictions made with the launch of Timeless. Okay, this is an important note here, so don't craft a bunch of banned cards right now, thinking that you will be reimbursed with 3 wildcards. So when will this be released? December 12th. Wow, that's actually really close. And with the release of Concept Art Cure, okay, so Concept Art Cure is also coming out on December 12th as well. That's so good. So with the launch of this format, there will also be fetch lands that are available in the format as well. So that is good to know. That is good to know. I was complaining about that in the last historic no ban list where MTG Arena didn't actually have any fetch lands and we had to actually suffer through Blood Moons. To celebrate this new format, we have a few promotion and events planned, including the new MTG Arena card, Timeless Dragon, that players will receive through their in-game inbox on December 12th. So just log in and then this card will be in your inbox. This isn't very good, right? It's not a very good card, but there we go. The reason why this card isn't very good is because if you ever want to plane cycling, well, there's a better card out there from the Lord of the Rings set. So what is the future of Timeless? We're excited to see what decks players craft as the new metagame develops and the format comes into its own. In 2024 and beyond, we expect more cards to be added. And we're also evaluating whether doing something like Timeless Anthology set is interesting or it would be too much. So there you have it. That is going to be the new format in Magic the Gathering Arena. I think this is pretty exciting. I do wonder what this means for Historic though. So is Historic going to kind of develop into something like Modern, whereas Timeless is going to be something like Vintage? Very curious, but I'm very excited with this format. What about you guys? If you guys have any thoughts on this new upcoming format, whether you like it or not, write it in the comments below. And with that said, I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.